It feels so good to say that it's great to podcast again. It is so good to be behind the mic and talk again. Welcome to the debut episode of Under the Middle Rope. I'm your host, Jose Taboada, and believe me, this was something that I've been dying to do for a long time, and I'm gonna get into that. What happened, but this is great. This is so good to finally be doing this again and talk about what I love most, and that's wrestling. That's what this is, a wrestling podcast. Like I said, welcome to Under the Middle Rope. I'm your host, Jose Taboada. This has been in the works for a long time, and this is something I've been dying to do since the last quote-unquote After the Count episode. And yes, this is formerly known as After the Count, and that's the first thing we're going to talk about right off the gate. What happened after the count? From name to us, the group that I was podcasting with. Brave with me here. This is a story. So first of all, the name change. That's the first thing I'm gonna discuss, because After the Count was a solid name. A lot of people that I've heard me podcast in the past, a lot of friends, family, they all thought that After the Count was an amazing name, and it rightfully was, because after the 3 count, after the referee hits 3, boom, you discuss what happened. It made sense. Given my 3-year absence from the podcasting world, WWE decided to have a podcast of their own called After the Bell. And that sucked. And so one of the things I was discussing as I was making new logos, getting everything set up on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, the one thing I realized, I'm like, in the quote-unquote off chance, and I mean off chance that I go mainstream. Let's get this straight. I don't know if I will. Not that I care. This is essentially the equivalent of your mother's basement's podcast. I'm in my room podcasting. If you're watching this on video, that's okay, because it's called The Platform. In that off chance, one, it could be a trademark copyright issue, and you could get a troll or even WWE themselves say, hey, you bid off After the Bell, and you could just change the name to have your own unique quote-unquote original name, and it's not. Which, by the way, I clearly came up with first, so who are we kidding? And so I said, it's best to go into a new direction. At the same time, it's a new era, I guess, in my experience with wrestling podcasting, because that was in college, and that's the next point. I had After the Count twice, or 2 seasons, if you want to call it. Season 1 in 2014, when I had my good friend Sam Pierce, who I was co-hosting with when I was doing my undergrad in broadcasting and film. And then, quote-unquote, Season 2 with 2 more great friends of mine, RJ Stacy and Austin Owens, in 2017. And both times were fantastic. We had a great time doing it. And, the first time in 2017, Sam and I went our own ways. I started my postgrad of sport journalism. Sam got a few jobs along the way here and there, and we kind of didn't have a proper finale in a sense, because it just kind of ended abruptly because we got busy with our schooling and whatnot. And that's exactly what happened again in 2017, oddly enough. The last time After the Count had an episode, which was our 27th, it was the week before SummerSlam 2017. We just made our predictions. We got together and we said, okay, we gave our thoughts, going ahead to the pay-per-view, and then our summer semester ended. And then we said, okay, after the 2 weeks, we're going to get right back into it, and then, recap what happened that SummerSlam, and it never did. We started to focus on our internships, which we all got, and then, weirdly enough, our school got into a strike in the process as well, so we never had that proper quote-unquote ending to After the Count. And of course, had we known at the time, which we obviously didn't, nobody could have thought that was going to be the end. We may have given it a proper goodbye. I don't know what would have happened, but that was the result. That's what ended up happening. And so 3 years later, here I am again, and this time I'm on my own. Number one, because I think it's hard just to find a place in the first place just to do this week after week. If I'm gonna do this week after week, that's why I'm doing it from the comfort of my own home. I said I'd get a mic. I said I'd get a webcam for YouTube. Finally got both. And I thought it was best if I could get different people along the way. And I think that's a good thing about the world of wrestling, is that you meet people along the way that love the same thing as you, yet have different opinions, different thoughts, different mindsets, all that stuff. And so I figured that's like the best route to have like different friends of mine come on week after week, whether it be in person or in Skype. And I know Skype is going to be interesting, especially because I did a couple tests with some friends recently, some from New York, some from Hawaii, some from the UK, and so forth. And of course, the quality is going to be different compared to this now. The video quality on YouTube is obviously going to be different, and it's just what we have to work with. And I think it's going to be a fun test just to see how this goes. Because again, I want to try to get as many different voices as I can, because that's what makes it fun. That's what's going to make this podcast interesting and invaluable. And that's my next point. What are we going to talk about? Because you can go broad with the wrestling podcast. You can do what we did in 2017 and 2014, and that was just to sit down and discuss what happened in the week in the world of wrestling. And because me, Austin, and RJ, or RJ, Austin, and I, for your grammar people out there, because we were all into WWE the most compared to New Japan or ROH of that sorts, we'd sit down, we talk about Raw, we talk about SmackDown, and then, just review what happened in the week storyline wise. We commented on, moments on the show. We commented on like the direction of a storyline, so on and so forth. And that's what we did for 27 weeks. And then from there, we had like, we had like a little news topic, whether discussing rumors or news and whatnot. And sometimes we mentioned the occasional New Japan thing here and there. I don't know, but our main focus was WWE. And now that I brought this back, or I guess you should say now that I am back, one of the things that I realized was that anybody can review Raw, anybody can review SmackDown or NXT now, and just get out of it, break out of it, discuss like, the hotter topics, like what was the quote unquote bigger storyline of the week, and across all shows now, because now we have AEW, All Elite Wrestling, we have, New Japan on I guess on a much better platform, even though it already was in 2017, but I'd want to talk about that more than what I did before. And just discuss like, maybe the biggest news that's going on. For example, next week, the first episode I'm going to do in terms of like topics and discussion, it's WrestleMania, because we are, as of this recording, we are 17 days away from the big day. A big day that now has no audience due to our coronavirus outbreak, COVID-19, which has affected everything and anything in sight, including WrestleMania. Now it's going to be a 2-night WrestleMania with Rob Gronkowski, former New England Patriot, the host. There is so much to unpack with just that news alone that came out. That is going to be obviously the first thing you talk about, because, again, that is huge, that is massive, and given how much I love the event, and how much I love WrestleMania, that's, to me, at least to me, it's nuts that it's still going to happen in some shape or form, given that so many sports have been canceled. And for me personally, now that I work at the Score, here in downtown Toronto, and to see everything, basketball, hockey, baseball, football, anything and everything canceled, you're amazed that something like WrestleMania still wants to go on in some shape or form. So I guess props to them. But that's going to be our first topic for next week, and essentially that is going to be the format of this podcast now. Forget the week by week. Everybody knows what happens. Let's talk about what's making headlines today. And we're going to be throwing in some like segments here and there, whether it's going to be some debates here and there, or even bringing back something that we had in 2017 of like such as Superstar of the Week or Match of the Week or Show of the Week, whatever it is, highlight something there. But the bigger focus will be the discussion, because I think to me, there's more value in that than more value in discussing what Paul Heyman said on Monday Night Raw about his client Brock Lesnar, or more value of discussing what Cody is doing to MJF and vice versa in All Elite Wrestling, that sort of things. Moving forward, so aside from that, the one thing that will stay, because again, I'm shaking off some rust here, talking and podcasting for the first time in 3 years. Most likely the pay-per-view predictions will stay. The week before, the week after, discuss the show itself. And once again, that's all pay-per-views. as much as we can. WWE, AEW, New Japan, blah 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 blah. And I don't know if I want to do a pay-per-view champion this time. Like, the most predictions win something. Like, let's say they're quote unquote the heavyweight champion. As you can see here behind me, if you're watching on YouTube, the Intercontinental title that was decided fell to the floor in between recordings. We're not going to discuss that. But we could crown a champion and have him defend it in the next predictions. I don't know. We know there's so many places that do it, such as Cultaholic, stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm going to see as the weeks go by, but it's something I would strongly consider. But for sure, pay-per-view predictions are going to stay. That's the only thing that's going to continue to progress. That is really it. And actually, I lied. That is not it. What am I saying? No. What did I miss in the last 3 years? What the hell has happened in the last 3 years since I podcasted? A lot. From, let's say here, Daniel Bryan coming back to WWE after what we thought was like his career was over with concussions, to, like I said earlier, All Elite Wrestling. That company, and since it formed in October of 2019, and it's been incredible. It's become this great weekly show to compete with NXT that went live, and it's a good alternative for fans for sure, and especially with the coronavirus situation, who they as well are dealing with the empty stadium stuff, and they put on a solid show last night, in terms of trying to work with their situations here. So that's been great. For me personally, as a fan, it's my 17-year dream came true of attending a WrestleMania, and believe me, that was well worth the 17-year wait. The one last year, WrestleMania 35 at MetLife Stadium, and to be surrounded by 80,000 and to be there that weekend alone was special, and that's a topic that I want to discuss in the coming weeks. So I guess that's just to put into form. I don't know. It's hard to sit right down in my notes, talk about the last 3 years when there's so much that has happened that it's hard to break down. And I mean, like, I can only go so far with it for sure. And like I said, I think for me, the biggest highlight was attending WrestleMania in the last 3 years as the biggest thing. And of course, done a SummerSlam that came to Toronto here and there, a couple of NXT, Survivor Series. No, actually, no, that was before 2017. But yeah, it's hard to break down, but there's a lot. And like I said, it's stuff that you want to discuss for sure, and it's something that you wish, such as, the Royal Rumble that I attended in 2018. That's one thing that happened while I was away from this podcasting thing with RJ. We had a blast there. Nakamura winning the Rumble, and then that lackluster match in New Orleans against AJ Styles that we all wanted from Brock Lesnar, having such a crazy stranglehold yet surprisingly entertaining stuff. A lot of stuff that I could have sat down and discussed, but that's okay because I'm back, and now we can go moving forward with what's gonna be upcoming in the world of wrestling today. And so that is where I'm gonna leave it at. I think that's a good way to end it. This was gonna be a short episode one, because again, I just really want to, before I go into anything further, I'd rather just sit down, explain what happened, and give you a preview of what's to come. I don't want to jump quickly into, like the discussions and whatnot without giving some sort of context on what to expect as a listener and as a viewer, about all this. So here I am, and it's good to be back. So that is that. As I think you can hear my dog barking. I think it's going to be one key thing about podcasting from home is that you'll get a lot of background noise. This is a cheap budget function, and you wish you had some quiet. If you could not hear my dog, then what I just said was extremely awkward and embarrassing. But that's okay, because that is what's going to happen. So that is that. So where can you find me now? The good thing about this, and something that I didn't do while I was doing After the Count, is have proper platforms, because SoundCloud is not a proper platform. It's a good hosting platform, but not an ideal thing to share. Say, hey, go to SoundCloud, click it. No, you want people to listen on the go. You want people to have this on the way to work, or listen to while they're working, or at home, whatever it is. First off, I'm available on Spotify. I'm on Spotify now, which is fantastic. Apple Podcasts as well for all you beautiful Apple users, which I'm proudly can say I'm not. In terms of your viewing pleasure, if you're bored at home, especially during the coronavirus outbreak, you can watch me on YouTube at Under the Middle Rope. And then, of course, Twitter, Facebook, back there as well, at Under Middle Rope. Take out the. And yeah, that is that. It's good to be back. It's great to be here. And again, next week we're going to be discussing this whole WrestleMania situation, something that I'm sure people have a lot of discussion on, and so on and so forth. So yeah, and just before I close off, thank you to 2 friends of mine. First of all, thank you to actually 3. Thank you first off to my good friends David Morisuti and Frank Palermo. I've been annoying them both with the logo designs, with the new graphics looks. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for putting up with me. I am so sorry that I annoyed you, but thank you so much for sitting down, giving me all this opinion, all this advice, now that we have these new graphics. The third I want to thank is Peter Atkinson. He was giving me so many different names for the podcast, and there were a lot, and so eventually it came down to 4, which was Under the Middle Rope, Getting Over Wrestling, Tabata Talks Wrestling, and Hot Tag. Good. Some of those were given by other friends, but Peter Atkinson was the one that gave the suggestion. Went to Twitter, fired that over, boom, it worked out, and here we are. So we will see you next week. I cannot wait to discuss. It's good to be back. Take care, guys. Follow me on all those platforms that I mentioned, and we'll see you guys soon. Have a good one. Bye.